So let's just get started. I'm going to let you start, Laura, or ask you to start about some of the general truths about sibling relationships. And we'll breeze through a lot of this because I think the bulk of what we want to do is answer questions. But let's just cover some basics.
Okay, so I'll keep it brief, and then if people want more information on these things, just put it in the chat and we can elaborate.
Great.
I would say the first thing to remember is it's normal for kids to have sibling rivalry. It's completely normal. That's because they're in competition with each other to get their needs met. And obviously the biggest competition is for you, the parent, because there's infinite love, but only two hands and a certain amount of attention to go around. So kids are always in competition with each other, and they have not yet gotten to the point where they trust that their needs are going to be met all the time. So the older they get, hopefully, the more they trust that even if you're busy with a little sibling right now, you will help them as soon as you can. And that's an important thing to keep in mind as we talk about how to address sibling rivalry and how to prevent it. I would also add that the ability to self-regulate is still developing in kids. Their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. Even adults sometimes have a hard time managing themselves when they feel threatened, when they get angry. And kids certainly do as well. So that's another reason you'll see sibling squabbles or fighting.
Yeah. So
that's why sibling rivalry exists, in my opinion. And we could talk about how to diminish it.
Yeah.
I guess the most important thing I would say before I turn it back to you, Susan, there are things you cannot control. You cannot control when your kids have a clash of temperaments, but you can control you. And the great research on this that's really empowering for us as parents is a lot depends on us. If we can change how we intervene in fights, we can help there be less fighting and more good working of things out in a way that brings the kids closer. Yeah. If we can build a really great relationship with each child, they don't have to compete as much because they're getting what they need from us. If we teach them the skills and if they feel like they're seen and valued in the family, again, that reduces competition, and the skills, of course, allow them to work things out. And if we resist punishing, it matters a lot, because when we punish kids, they see that as how you work things out when you have a disagreement. We think we're teaching them a lesson about how to be in the world. They think we're showing them how we resolve conflict. And so if we punish, kids will use the same words we use. You'll hear them, I can't take this anymore, a child will say to his little sister. I'm so sick of you. And you realize, oh my God, I actually said that to my child. He's mimicking me. So what we do is modeling for our kids. And if we can guide our children in an empathic way, while we still set limits, they will learn to do that with each other. So they'll turn to each other and say, excuse me, wait a minute. I was using that, or I need a little quiet here so I can finish my homework, or whatever, in a way that's more respectful, just because we model it. Over to you.
Okay, yeah. I love this because I did a little bit of a Facebook Live and Instagram Live. I'm still learning that. But I was talking about this petri dish that the sibling relationship provides for developing and acquiring and cultivating skills that will serve a child throughout their lives. Now, of course, the sibling relationship isn't always going to be buddy-buddy. As you said, temperaments may just be very different. Ages, sometimes an age span can be significant. But a sibling is the person who knows, the only other person who knows your family and what it's like to be in your family, a child in your family. They've known you the longest. Certainly get to practice conflict resolution and learning to get along with those whose interests run counter to ours. So if you can reframe the conflict in your home, which particularly is escalated right now for many of you, as simply sort of the grinding, the grist for the mill, sort of the opportunity to develop some resilience and adaptability and flexibility and tolerance, then we take it less personally. I think what you were saying is so true, Laura, about how we show up in the midst of the conflict, whether we decide, oh, who started it? Tell me who, let me figure out who's the one I need to punish or scold. That one of the elements of that is that we take it personally. We take it as some kind of a testament or indicator that we're failing as a parent, which is a word I don't use in my world. And I think you share that. We don't talk about good parenting or failing as a parent. We talk about showing up as best we can. And for many of us, our own issues from childhood do show up, reappear when our kids are fighting. If you were the younger child who was sort of persecuted by an older sibling, then you may typically identify with that younger sibling. If you're the older one, if you were the older child and you were always being asked to look after your little brother or be more tolerant when it felt unfair, then of course your own feelings are going to get, activated. So it's important as you look at this process of creating more harmony between your kids to notice what you're experiencing in the heat of the moment beyond the annoyance, the frustration, please make the bickering stop. The other thing I wanted to say is that right now, it's probably obvious to you, but for those who need a reminder, this is a very challenging time, not just for parents, but for children. And children are passionate. If things are going well, they're likely to express how they feel about things. And that can be chaotic and noisy and dramatic and messy. And so if you can reframe the conflict between your kids as almost an obvious outlet for one or both or all of them to, be projecting their frustration about not being able to go to school or play outside onto this most convenient sibling in the sitting on the other end of the couch, then we can see it from a more compassionate place as just the way things are, as we kind of get pent up feelings, get compounded as we have to shelter in place. Anything you want to add to that before we start talking about